All right, howdy ho to everybody. Hope everybody's super well. It's been a fabulous week, ups and downs, but you're back in the barn with Baker. Welcome everybody. I've had lots of requests to bring on a guest, which I'm absolutely going to do. I just am making sure that I have my sort of technical side down here, which I'm not going to lie to you. it's 9:30 on Saturday morning, and I am on recording 11 because for some reason it keeps cutting out. I don't know why. Anyway, let's start off with
We can't do it. It can't be done.
that's my youngest daughter who is now a college student, and so time goes by like that. But that's been our mantra since about 2000. And if you have any Baker swag, it'll come up here in a minute on the old screensaver. But on the back of every piece of swag I sent out, I think every piece, there's our Baker seal, and that's got the skull and crossbones. And on the bottom, on the scroll, is written in Latin, "If we can't do it, it can't be done." So that was the first logo I ever designed, and I freaking love it. And every single one of those emblems on there has a meaning. And was thought about and designed and put on there for a reason. So you're welcome to DM me in the comments. If you look at that, there it is right there. This one right here. Look at the swag that you have and make a guess as to what each one of those things on the shield mean, what the skull means, all the rest of that stuff. Because every symbol on there means something to me. One of the interesting things that came out of the discussion of how rare tradesmen are these days, and everybody was as gobsmacked as I was. In Canada, it's 16,000 certified plumbers. So that's, I'm assuming, did do some deeper dives on it, but the only conclusion I could come to was it's journeymen or journeywomen, whatever you want to call it, plumbers. 16,000 nationwide and like 55 in the States, which that does not translate into people that are actually in the trade, like apprentices and support staff, ad execs, all the rest of the stuff. That's specifically people that are fully trained and certified to work within the plumbing field. That's an astronomically low number. And if we would quit fighting over the scraps and trying to be the best price and just realize our value and our worth, then we can raise the water. And it, as the saying goes, a rising tide raises all boats. And I think that's what's happening. In fact, just this week, I was reading a Bloomberg article talking about the new millionaires are going to be people in the trade. Now, that sounds sexy and nice and all the rest of the stuff and attractive. But you're going to, as I've told my boys and anybody that's ever worked for me, you will earn every nickel. There's no easy path to plumbing unless you're got a trust fund somewhere. It is a hard and difficult road to become good at what you do and then become a good businessman. Those are two absolutely different skill sets that you need to work on. One of the things I want to talk about today is sort of the reoccurring question in my DMs is okay, Baker, great. Obviously, the numbers are dwindling. How do we get more people into the trade? And my answer to that is, we need to elevate things. We need to show people how awesome it is to be in the trade. And that's what I'm trying to do. People think it's I'm vain, or I get lots of that criticism, vain, or I'm boasting or whatever. And it's simply, listen, I am just a dumbass plumber that has worked really, really hard and taken risks. And this is the life that I have created for myself. This was not, when I took over Baker Plumbing from my dad, it was my dad that worked at Baker Plumbing and me. There wasn't some expansive network of systems or protocols. In fact, at this moment, There is one customer that I still work for. That was my dad's. I lost almost all of them the year after my dad passed away because we changed our pricing structure almost immediately. My dad charged between 18 and 35 bucks an hour. And the minute I took over, I raised that to 85. And people thought I was crazy and insane. And it was, as with any change, it was a bit of a difficult road, but we're now at between 145 and 165. Like, you got, and we talk about it on here, and people say you got to raise your rates and all the rest of the stuff. But every time I do that on here, people recoil and say, "There's no way you can charge that much." I'm like, "Yes, there is. You can absolutely charge that much because there's only 16,000 of us. So why can't you charge that much? You should be able to charge that much and more. It's only going to continue to escalate. And it's the opportunities for tradesmen, if you're smart, are going to be enormous. The question I got asked the most, or the suggestion that came across the most, is that we need to sort of lower the barrier to entry to get into the trades, which my answer to that is no bloody way. We need to raise it. Raise it. What do you mean you got to lower it? At the moment in Canada, you just simply need to graduate high school. That's it. Once you graduate high school, you can go to the trade. You don't have to have there's no like, okay, well, you may have graduated, but you got to have 82% to get in. When I tried to get into university, it was 75%. That's what your average needed to be to get into university. And I got in by the skin of my teeth. When I went to high school, I was not educationally minded. It was just simply tasks that needed to be done to get to the next level of my life. And so I did have a English teacher. Her name was Mrs. Faber. And she told me to my face, she did not like me, that I was not smart enough, and that I would have a much lower standard of living than I was experiencing with my parents. And I was mad about that. And maybe that may have been a bit of a burr in the saddle, being the bonnet, whatever you want to call it. And nobody here knows the standard of living that I had when I was a kid, but I have surpassed that. And I had a fabulous life as a child. I did not come from poverty or hard times or whatever. But I have outdone what my parents provided. And I think that's the point. I hope my kids outdo me. I hope they do, but it'll take effort and determination. And so why would we lower it? In fact, I did a little looking, and what would happen if we made college or the trade schools free? There is some benefits, but the cons are somebody has to pay for the school. It's not free. Whenever the government says it's free, it means it's taxpayer funded. The other downside is that it won't be taken seriously. If trade schools or college was free, students might choose, likely studies show, to skip classes, change their majors, and study less because they don't care. They don't have anything invested into it. If you don't have any sacrifice going into your education or bettering yourself, then there's no investment from you. It doesn't matter. And I think we see that all over the place, that just because something is offered free, it actually becomes devalued. And if we are truly trying to escalate this trade, which is something that I am passionate about, which I'm focused on, which I talk about all the time with my boys and with others, that if we take this thing seriously and elevate it to a place where it's respected and admired, then it benefits everybody. Dumbing this thing down doesn't do anybody any good at all. So how do we elevate the trade? How do we do that? By showing how incredibly awesome that it is. And I may say this a few more times. We have to prove to the world that we are not uneducated, that we are not insulated, that we are not unaware of what's happening in the world. If you are a tradesman, then you should be engaged in the political space. You should be engaged in the religious space. You should be engaged in your community spaces. You should be engaged at your educational spaces. If you got kids, you should be involved in your school. You should be involved in every aspect of your kids' lives, every aspect of what's going on in this world. You should be able to have an intelligent conversation with people about just about any given subject, particularly current events and what's going on. And it's becoming increasingly more difficult to be educated without becoming politicized to one side or the other. And I'll absolutely admit that that is a difficult thing for me to navigate, because I certainly have my own thoughts and intuitions and my own, propensities to lean one way or another. And so when I see something that aligns with everything I think, I take that as the truth, which isn't always the case. And there's been a few things, frankly, that I have sort of posted or aligned with or said that I'm like, oh, that actually is not correct. So it's not as easy as just like, okay, I'm going to scroll the news feeds and become more educated. It takes effort. It's become harder and harder to sort of disseminate the right from the wrong, the diamonds from the muck. But if you'll do it, and if you'll engage in those spheres, your circle of influence, which frankly is pretty small, you can prove to the world that plumbers and tradesmen are not Neanderthals, that they're not just dirty. What were the 3 rules of plumbing, right? Paydays on Friday, flows downhill, and don't lick your fingers. We need to get past that. And if you think that lowering the barrier to entry to the trades is the way to go, then you're just sort of falling into that pattern of, well, we just need to make it simpler for people because life's hard. Life is hard, and it's not going to get any easier by softening it for the people coming in. And that's part of, I've alluded to that previously when we've talked about women in the trade and, other quote unquote minorities, that people talk about changing the landscape. The only thing that's changed the landscape in plumbing is the access to tools and their ability to do jobs that were incredibly difficult on your body. But the effort of getting up and working in difficult circumstances with difficult people, and difficult situations, the stress that comes from that, I don't think that goes anywhere. I think that we have to embrace that and have people that are willing to go into those circumstances and become problem solvers, because those problems aren't going anywhere, and not just simply salesmen. I do fear significantly that the plumbing world, the trade world, is not trying to create tradesmen anymore. They're trying to create salesmen. Just go and sell the shit. Just sell it, and then we can install it, and then we make our margins. We make our numbers. I hate that model. I hate it. I get it. But at the exact same time, like I said previously, Baker Plumbing has never been more profitable. Baker Plumbing has never done better numbers. And it's not because we're selling more stuff. It's because our reputation is frankly catching fire on solving problems, providing reasonable solutions that last, and doing it with a smile on our face and with the attitude that is infectious and encourages people to call us back. That's the game that we're trying to play. And to date, it's working incredibly well. That's it. That's my 15 minutes of fame, as they like to say. We're excited about where this little barn banter can go. As you know, I've done it lots on Instagram, but we're going to try and up it. And as you can see, I've got my studio. all brought to you by Trade. Everybody have a fabulous day. We are building a religion. We're building it bigger. Come on, join me.